It was that time of the year again, the family gathering. The dining table stretched endlessly, heavy with food, and heavier still with the weight of so many of those familiar faces, all pressed together in one room. At one end, my grandfather began his impassioned lecture on Test cricket's history, insisting that no modern batsman can ever replicate the patience and the technique of the golden era greats. He spoke with even more fervor as the India England series played on television, using every single delivery as proof of his argument. While my Uncle Darrell sat there, arms crossed, eyebrows raised, face small, muttering complaints on overcomplicating sport. Meanwhile, my Aunt S sat next to my dad, her expression glazed with fatigue, while he carried on with his usual stream of dry jokes. She sighed deeply, while he remained perfectly content, amused by his own wit. Yet, amongst all of this, I could feel a tension just lurking underneath. Like a cat ready to pounce, I found myself sitting next to an aunt who I simply couldn't put a name to. She was engaged in conversation with my mother, but to me at least, it didn't look like a conversation. It was more of an interrogation. One question after another. Did you finally manage to sell that house? Where are you going to live in 5 years' time? So, what is the grand plan when you get home? It was as if she was determined to get through a checklist. Her tone sharp, authoritative, but disguised as a casual curiosity. My mother, ever the charmer, smiled and met her barrage of questions with effortless grace. I, however, sat there, pondering who this aunt even was and wondering whether she joined the dinner just to interview us, as if we're potential candidates for a job. So, I kept my gaze fixed to the tablecloth, tracing its patterns with my eyes and analyzing its checkered nature to an almost microscopic level, doing everything I can to blend it with the surroundings. If I didn't make eye contact, I thought, maybe she wouldn't notice me. Maybe she'd keep her bombardment of questions aimed at my mother. But the thought lingering in my head was, I'm next, for sure. I tried grabbing a few pieces of potato to eat and attempting conversation with my cousins. But that was my mistake. The sudden movements were like a siren to my aunt's eyes, as immediately she zeroed in on me. She leaned in, her eyes twinkling with that mix of curiosity and maljudgment that only aunts can perfect. Her voice cut through the room like a spotlight on stage. So what's the plan? University? Career? Life? I froze, my fork hovering midair, holding that piece of potato hostage, while my aunt kicked off the game with E4, a bold, daring option. My brain began to scan through the various possible possibilities. Become a billionaire? Too arrogant. How about travel the world? Too cringe. Change the world? Too unrealistic. Each option flickered through my mind, only to be dismissed just as quickly, leaving me stranded in the silence. But as a bit of anxiety settled in, and a sense of pressure quietly made itself known, I chuckled. Not because the question was particularly funny, but because frankly, I had no idea what else to do. It was either laugh or sit there under the paralysis of stares. My grandfather's rant stuttered to a halt like he tripped over his own words. My uncle blinked like he'd been yanked back to reality. And then there were my parents. No words, no ridicule, just that heavy, quiet look of anxiety settling over their faces. How do I reply? Do I play E5? The path maybe I've rehearsed thousands of times. Or D5? Take a risk, step into the unknown, see where it leads me. How about C5? A flexible approach, keeping options wide. The room is waiting, the clock is ticking, and I take a pause. I'm still trying to figure it out, I declared. My voice cut through the room like a spot, like my voice cut through the room, and I had desperately hoped that my words would be enough to nudge the room back into its rhythm. But instead, silence settled over us like a heavy fog. Around me, faces arranged themselves into polite smiles, heads tilted into gentle, understanding nods. No one spoke it, but the message was clear. I had let them down. At that moment, I felt small. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because it felt like I should. To me, I felt like I was lagging behind a race I didn't even know I was running. No, it felt like something worse. Like I was playing checkers on a chessboard against my aunt, and I walked straight into a scholar's mate. 4 moves, game over, and suddenly I was out of answers. But the thing is, that phrase, I'm still trying to figure it out, isn't an automatic or instinctive response. It's an embodiment of who I am right now. I'm the question, not the answer. I keep replaying it in my head, asking myself again and again, did I fail those dreams? Or maybe did I just go past them? Because no one really instructs you to let go of a dream. There's no guidebook, no ritual, no final applause. You don't just wake up one day and say, today is the day I stop caring. No, it doesn't really work like that. Instead, it starts to fade in a subtle, quiet way. Inch by inch, like colors fade in a photograph. At first, you don't really think about it. Then maybe you'll tell yourself you'll come back to it, and then you don't. Not because you made a decision, but because the decision made itself in the background while you were busy in your daily routine. And then one day, someone asks, so what's next? And you pause. Not because you never had a plan, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped believing in the one you had. That dream, so vivid, so alive, it's gone. Not shattered, not torn apart, just quietly gone. And all that's remaining is the echo, the ghost of something you once chased with your whole heart and soul. It took me a while to stop feeling guilty of that. I kept wondering, why can't I just pick something and stick with it like everyone else seems to? In reality, I'm not alone. Many of us are in the shared journey of growth and exploration as we figure out the paths that best fit us. It's a universal experience, one filled with questions and doubts as we navigate through this rapidly changing world. But now, it's my turn to start the game. Do I play e4, a bold yet open choice? Or b3, a quiet, unexpected move? How about c4? Waiting, buying time. The board is empty, the first move is mine, and yet beneath the silence, a question prowls. Soft, but persistent. Why? Why do our dreams change? Why do we stop caring about something we pour so much time and effort to? The simple answer is that it's because we change. Psychologists remind us that our identity isn't fixed, it's fluid. In our teenage years and early adulthood, we're in a phase known as the critical development period. Our brains, to be specific, the prefrontal cortex, which handles planning and decision making, is still developing. So it makes sense that a dream that's once felt like our life's purpose may not align with who we're trying to become. But there's another layer to this: our relationship with effort. When we've poured and invested countless time and hours into something, we often feel this heavy wave of guilt when walking away. That's the sunk cost fallacy. The belief that because you've already invested energy and emotion into something, that you're somehow obliged to keep going forward, even if it doesn't make sense or make us happy. Just like in this game. For a while, White's position seemed fine. Pieces developed, structure solid, and there was still room to shape a plan. Until move 30. Instead of the rather simple king h1, white decided to play knight d2, and the cracks began to appear. Black immediately pounced with rook d4 and pawn d3, and after c4, the position completely collapsed. Each move after were mere reactions, one weaker than the last. And eventually, all the initiative which was carefully built up was gone. Even late tries like queen d3 or f3 disguised resignation, hastening defeat. That's the cruel truth of chess. It isn't the hours of careful maneuvering that decide the outcome, but the ability to adapt when the moment demands it. White's mistake wasn't knight d2. It was the refusal to let go of a plan that was no longer working. Holding on to a plan that once worked doesn't win games. Instead, survival or even victory comes by changing the course entirely. Our dreams are no different. They're not fixed, they're fluid. They evolve as we grow, as the landscape around us changes. Letting go of a dream is all right. It's understanding that what once felt right may no longer serve who we're trying to become. Letting go of a dream isn't wasting effort, it's honoring what it's taught you. The only real loss is staying fixed to an idea just to justify how long you followed it. E4, E5, knight f3, it doesn't really matter, because once each game ends, another one begins. Some we win, some slip through our fingers after one wrong turn, and some completely fall apart despite every careful move. But that's the beauty of it. There'll always be another board, another chance to try again. We carry the weight of our past losses. Yes, the mistakes, the mismates, the bold sacrifice that didn't pay off, but we're not defined by any single one. We're still in the opening, still understanding the lines out there, and still deciding which path best fits us. And every move we make, even the ones that don't work, teaches us something about how we're going to play the next game. So, the next time I meet that aunt, maybe I'll just smile and tell her that I'm building my future piece by piece and excited to see what it becomes. Thank you.